Hi, I'm Charles Westmoreland with the Columbia Tribune. I'm here with KOPN General Manager Sean Spence. Today, Sean and I are here to talk about something that we are doing together because every now and then, radio and newspapers like to be friends. So what we're going to be doing is on Thursday at 5:30 to 7 o'clock at Hickman High School, we are co-hosting a Columbia Board of Education candidate forum. So Sean, thanks for joining me today to talk a little bit about this.
Thank you, Charles. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So yeah, you've had a couple of our folks on your show, so we're glad to get you over to the Tribune to put you in the hot seat.
That's right. I've been doing stuff with the Tribune now for over a decade, and it's been a fun partnership.
So Sean, you came to us with the idea of putting together this forum. What made you decide to get involved with this particular group this year?
Well, it's just so important. Columbia Public Schools, it's a place where an awful lot of our money gets spent. It's turning out our employees. It's turning out our children into the job market. So it's just very, very important. And as general manager at KOPN, I'm always looking for ways for us to get involved in those important things in the community. And then I'm always looking for ways to involve other entities. And the Tribune has been such an important part for, 180 years or whatever it is. It's such an important part of our community. And with us coming from kind of overlapping but different audiences and being able to reach different people in the community in ways that are different from all the other forums that are going on in town, it just was something that made a lot of sense to me.
Well, we're happy to be a part of this. I've been involved in different candidate forums over the last 10 years, and I don't believe the Tribune has been involved on this level with, co-hosting an event, serving as the moderators. Me and Matt Sanders, our city editor, will be the moderators at the event.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'll be the MC, but you guys are going to do the heavy lifting with the questions, and I've seen the first draft of the questions. I think we're asking lots of important things that people are going to want to know. And, a couple of almost hot seat kinds of things. Certainly, we're not shying away from the important issues.
Well, it's something I've always found to be, I think it's more fun for me because I get to ask the questions. I don't have to answer any.
Right.
I love the lightning round where it's yes, no, or they can say undecided, but we just want one word as quick as they can think of it.
I love that.
And then you move on to the next one.
Yeah, I love that. And of course, that was totally your idea, Charles, and that's not something that you see very often. I've seen it because I've been involved with candidate forums in like 10 or 15 states, but I've never seen that in Columbia. So I'm excited, and I think it'll keep them on their toes.
Well, then, have you been able to meet the candidates in this year's school board race?
I've met most of them. At KOPN, we work really hard to not pick a position. We're not going to endorse a candidate. I've tried to keep my opinions out of that. But yeah, I've met several of the candidates. We've got 5 candidates this year. We've got a brand new guy that I've never met before. I just communicated with him about this forum over email, and that his name is Tyler
Liro.
Liro, good. And I thought that was how you said his name, but that's good because I'm going to have to introduce him on Thursday. I've never met him, and I've never met Ben, the former superintendent.
Oh yes, Ben Tilley.
Assistant superintendent. And I've never met Susan Blackburn, but I have known Teresa Malidi for 10 years. I've known Christine King since she first got on the board. What I know for sure is we have some really incredible candidates, and as a community, we should be proud of that foot that we're putting forward for education.
So we did our editorial board meetings with the candidates last Thursday and Friday.
Okay, have you guys endorsed yet?
We are doing our endorsements Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, I would normally have seen that. I didn't think I'd missed it.
No, you didn't miss it, and then Hank Waters' endorsements will be tomorrow.
Oh, gosh.
But they're online right now.
Oh,
I just pushed it online a couple minutes ago myself.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing.
But no, one thing that, I met with Hank last week to share a little bit about what he knows, because there's so much institutional knowledge
he knows
in
a lot.
Hank's brain. And, we both agreed, and I think you will too, it's a really good slate of candidates.
Yeah, it is.
Tyler Liro is the youngest, most inexperienced, but this guy just wants to help and do good in the world. I mean, you get that feeling that he wants to give, and he sees school board as a way to do that. Susan Blackburn, a 29-year teacher in the school district. Ben Tilley, a teacher and administrator with Columbia Public Schools for 21 years. Christine King is a 9-year incumbent. And I don't think there's a board that Teresa Malidi has not served on in this town.
Well, and Tyler, again, I don't know Tyler. I don't have a preference on him at all. But the thing that I will mention is that those things that you just said about Tyler Liro are exactly what we said about Jonathan Sessions when he first ran for that seat years ago. And oh, he's young, and he doesn't have a lot of this kind of experience, and he really didn't have a lot. And he's turned out to be such a great school board member. So I'm leaving that door open for Tyler, and I think that I think all 5 of them are so worth our consideration. We don't have any nutties this year, and we have the occasional nutty.
Well, I'm hoping that whichever 3 don't make it, they run again. Because I hate to see a situation where somebody gets discouraged because a lot of people don't win their first attempt.
Right.
I mean, that's for a lot of people. That's about getting the name recognition and just announcing that you're out there and you want to do something. Because somebody coming in with just a few years of experience in town, going against somebody who's been living here for 40 or 50 years and is involved, it's a hard uphill battle. But that doesn't mean they should stop trying.
Well, even look at this field, Charles, and none of these people, of course, with the exception of Christine, who is an incumbent, none of these people have run for this seat before. So you look at previous years, the last couple of elections, we had some very credible, great candidates who ran and did not win, and we don't see them running again this year.
So what are you hoping is going to be different about our forum? Because there have been forums nonstop for the last couple of weeks.
Well, part of it is the last opportunity to see these candidates. So all of those people who have missed all of those previous forums but still want to be there, this is going to be a great place to be. Another thing is that much more than I think any of the other forums, this is a more general, broad-ranging forum than any of the others. All of them were wonderful. NAACP forum, the Chamber of Commerce forum, which is immediately before us, the Missouri National Education Association, great forums, but all of those come from a specific viewpoint and really want to make sure that they're hitting specific topics. So they're going to do some general stuff, but they have some really specific things they want to make sure that they hit, which is their role in the community. Whereas you and I, KOPN and Columbia Daily Tribune, don't really have that. We want to try to provide the biggest, broadest picture of these candidates with no particular axe to grind or area to cover. And I think that will provide a substantively different forum than any of the others.
Well, and what we've been trying to do here at the Tribune is make sure that with all the questions that these candidates have already been asked, what have they not? What question has not been asked yet, and try to go into as much detail as possible. We want to really test who's done their homework, who's been in the schools, who has a clear vision, and is anybody just kind of winging it?
Right.
Or
well,
being
let me assure you there's going to be some winging it. All 5 of those candidates are going to wing it one place or another, which, by the way, I think that's actually both an interesting and a useful thing to see who wings it the best. Because if you see somebody you think, oh, they didn't wing anything, yeah, they did, you just didn't catch it.
Well, and I guess that's a true testament of a good candidate, because they're going to have to at some point. I mean, you can't really always predict. I know they have agendas laid out, but you can't always predict everything's going to happen at these meetings.
That's right.
But you still have to be decisive when time comes for a vote.
That's right. These are our deciders. They're the ones who are making the tough decisions. And there are always a lot of tough decisions. I mean, we are constantly just busting at the seams, outgrowing our facilities. We have the issues of guns that are coming up. We have what do you do with the kids who are doing bizarre things with their cameras on their iPads, and I mean, just all kinds of things. There's all kinds of crazy issues, and they're going to deal with things that you and I, if we tried our hardest, we couldn't think about some of the issues they're going to have to deal with.
One of the most common issues that I keep seeing coming up in our questions with candidates during our editorial board meetings, and then it'll be brought up again during the forum, Columbia's biggest problem seems to be growth, which is a good problem to have. You'd rather be growing than shrinking, but planning for this growth. I mean,
Oh yeah.
adding a new school every 4 to 5 years, and once they build a new middle school, well, we've got about 5 years until it's time to build something else.
Well, you know, my friend Susan Hart, who's going to be the next incoming chamber board president, they've always got those different titles, I got to remember it, but Susan always says, a good problem to have is still a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you still have to deal with it. So yes, the growth, dealing with that in every, you know, whether it's the infrastructure for the community or making sure that we've got enough buildings and not having an overabundance of trailers and things like that. These are big, big issues, but growth, I think, is probably going to be our biggest issue for the foreseeable future.
Well, and it's not a bad problem to have. I mean, but definitely, you know, the infrastructure, the schools, the busing issues that have to be dealt with, it's not a small task. And whenever it comes to boundaries, and that's going to be one of the big issues that comes up with the new middle school, is they're going to have to redo boundaries. And it's not going to be just the middle school
And
boundaries.
people get cranky.
Oh, very much. Very much. I mean, I can only imagine what it was like when Battle High School came about. All of a sudden, you've got your Rockbridge faithful and your Hickman faithful, and all of a sudden, their kids are going to be Spartans. That's it, right? It's the battle.
It's the Spartans. And also, when you deal with those things, a lot of things start rearing their ugly head, and our school boards are going to have to deal with this, the new members, and this, you know, there are racial issues, there are economic disparity issues, and those things were front and center when they were looking at redrawing those lines related to battle, and they're front and center every time that we look at redrawing those lines, because who is my kid going to be going to school with? And you start to see things that about some of our neighbors that we're not always going to be so proud of.
Now, you've been in the community a lot longer, and you're involved everywhere with everything. So tell me if you think this statement I'm going to make is true.
Oh gosh.
Because I've only been around for 8 months now, but I get out, I talk to some people. And it seems to me that right now with the Columbia Board of Education, we have a very functional board. We've got a high-functioning school district, so we're not really electing people to fix a problem. We want to take something that's already very good and try to keep it at that level, if not make it better through this election process.
I think that is mostly true. Now, the thing that I'll say that I'm sure will get me in a little bit of trouble with somebody, we have an awesome, I love him, superintendent of schools. Peter Stiepelman is a wonderful leader, and I'm very, very happy that he is there. One of the things that he's had to really deal with over the last 2+ years, I think he's been in the job for 4 years maybe, but particularly over the last 2 years, we've seen amazing turnover at the higher levels of the school board. And that is something that or at the higher levels of the school administration.
Okay.
And that's something that the school board is going to have to deal with. The number of former administrators, the number of assistant superintendents, the number of, we're about to head into our 3rd CFO, and in fact I think that in just 2 years, I think in fact they're getting ready to change the structuring for that position. These are all things that are going to happen. It's in part about growing pains, it's in part about people having been there a long time, it's in part about we produce really great administrators who can then get jobs other places if they choose to, but for whatever the reason, that's an issue that our school board is going to have to deal with.
Have you heard anything about what some of those reasons might be for the high turnover? Because what I've been hearing is that teacher retention has been the problem. I haven't heard as many conversations about district officials, principals, assistant principals, assistant superintendents, things like that.
Well, we look at say over a 2 to 5 year period, and Kim Presko, for example, she's the principal at Battle High School, and she can sit in a room with all of the other principals, and she can say, I remember when you were hired, I remember when you were hired, I remember when I trained you, I remember when you were my student, I remember when I coached you, I remember. So we've got her, and she's been in that job for 6 years maybe, something like that. So think about that. So over 6 years, you stick her in a room full of principals, and she's the one with the seniority. And in many, many of these rooms, she is the room with the seniority. That's just something to tell you, okay, well, we've had some turnover. Now that is natural also for the industry. I was talking to Peter Stiebelman about that the other day, and the average time for a superintendent to keep their job, it's only like 4 years. It might even be 3, it's just 3 to 5 years, it's somewhere in there. So he's right around at the time where you more often are going to lose a high-level administrator like that, and it's the same for those other positions. So part of it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, now, teacher pay, I know that's been a big issue, and if you ask any school board candidate, should teachers be paid more? Of course they want to be paid more.
Right.
For me, the real difference in this answer is, do they know how they're going to try to pay for it? Because it's a fixed budget. If you want to pay teachers more, well, does that mean music class goes away?
Right.
Does that mean you eliminate, some sports teams or some different groups that kids are involved with? There's always got to be that trade-off.
Right. Are we going to look at innovative things like going to a 4-day school week?
Which is being done in parts of Missouri.
That's right. It sure is.
And
all over the country.
And what I've heard about the 4-day school week in some parts of rural Missouri, they like it.
A lot do. From a cost perspective, it obviously has major benefits. Now, I will say, perhaps in what I just said, it sounds like I'm a big proponent of that. I'm honestly not a big proponent of much because I'm not an expert, but I'm an old fuddy-duddy, and the idea of going down to 4 days seems really weird to me, but I think they need to look at things like that and decide if it's best for us.
Now, I personally wouldn't advocate for Columbia to go to a 5-day week because the districts that did it, they were having trouble not just retaining teachers, but hiring teachers because of what they were paying. But if they paid the same amount, they switched it to 4 days, and all of a sudden they had an applicant pool that they could work with. They had teachers that wanted to stay because of the schedule. Columbia, I don't think, has that issue. What I see Columbia is trying to do, they want to chase these pay scales that they see in Kansas City and St. Louis. And it's a little bit tough for a city of 120,000 people to say we want what this city of 500,000 has. If we're comparing ourselves to independence, that's one thing. Kansas City and St. Louis it's a whole different ballpark.
Right. Well, you look at, we lost the fairly new, maybe he'd been there for 2 years and maybe just 1 year, Eric, I forget his last name, who is principal over at Hickman High School until just a couple of years ago. We lost him after either a year or two because he went to where both he had family in Kansas City, but he immediately went to more money in Kansas City, and that's hard for us to compete with.
We get the same thing here at the Tribune. We've had a lot of great reporters and photographers over the years that either head east or west on 70, and I had a chance to meet Tony Messenger with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Yeah.
It seems like every time I meet a well-known journalist in Missouri, at one point in time, they went through the Tribune. Mike Jenner, the executive editor at the Missourian, he went through the Tribune at one time.
That's right.
I think that's, in some ways, that's almost Columbia's mission, is prepare some sectors of the workforce for Kansas City and St. Louis.
Right, and the rest of the world. And certainly in journalism, we are the launching pad for so many.
So any other final thoughts on the forum that you'd like to share?
I just want to mention again, and I don't want you to think I'm blowing a bunch of sunshine your way, but absolutely one of the differentiating factors with this forum that is just going to be cool, I think, is that lightning round, yes or no, put them on the hot seat, get their yes or no, or we're letting them have undecided. Although we went back and forth a little bit on that because we got to give them a little bit of leeway. But I just think that's going to be so cool, and it's something that I have never seen in Columbia. Period.
Well, with the format of some of the other forums, they try to get a lot of candidates, multiple races, into a short format.
Right.
We get 90 minutes with 5 candidates.
Yes.
And I think anybody that goes to this will walk out knowing who's prepared, who's ready, and which 2 people should be in these seats. And then they can decide for themselves.
I do think we're definitely one of the only ones that is just focusing on the school board. So, for example, the chamber is today, and they're going to do the school board first, giving them time to haul it down the street to come do ours. It's happening tomorrow. And then they're going to do the city council, and they're going to do the hospital board. And they're squeezing all that into either an hour and a half or 2 hours, whereas we're going to put all of our eggs into that one school board basket. So again, if you really are somebody who cares about our school district, which honestly anybody in earshot should be, this is going to be a great one to attend.
So again, the Columbia Board of Education Forum, hosted by KOPN and Tribune, will be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on Thursday, March 29th at Hickman High School. We hope to see you there. We put out a Facebook post today at 10:30 soliciting some of your questions. So it's not too late. We can still add in some of your questions to what we're going to be asking at the forum. We will also be streaming the forum on Facebook Live, but you want to be there because I'll tell you, the audio and video quality, you would just be better off being there personally. Sean, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Charles.
All right. Thank you for watching.